Welcome back to the Corruption of Colton podcast. This is episode 10, and today is a pretty exciting episode. Today we're going to be comparing Apple Music and Spotify. Now, I am very invested in this idea because I am very obsessed with music, as you may know from listening to this podcast, which means I'm also very interested in the different features and services and audio quality that each service provides. So we're going to be taking a look at the positives and the negatives of both Spotify and Apple Music, and then comparing the two to see which one is the best. Now, I'm going to say right now that Apple Music and Spotify, though not similar, they are about preference and about, it's definitely about preference, and it's very subjective, like music, because if you like CD style audio, you'll probably like Apple Music. If you don't really care about the audio that much and you just care about the music, you might just pick Spotify. So I will say each service is for different people, but I'm going to try and compare them fairly to why people may like the other. Now, my personal favorite is Apple Music. So in this episode, I am kind of going to be explaining why I think Apple Music is better, but I do want to also show why someone might pick the other. So it might be a little biased, but I'm going to try to be as less biased. I'm going to try and be as unbiased as possible. So let's begin. So the first tab on Apple Music is the Listen Now tab, which gives me the music I have listened to recently, my weekly playlists, and some recommended stations. So some of the playlists are my rock playlist, which is like automatically updated every week. Apple Music will make playlists based off the genres you listen to. So I have like a rock, and then I have like a chill music mix, which is like a country pop, kind of like more calm type of music playlist, which I don't choose the songs of, but I think that it chooses the songs for me pretty well based off the artists I listen to, because it gives me a combination of artists I currently listen to with artists that I haven't listened to yet, and makes like a good blend of that, so I kind of know what bands I want to get into. Like, for example, if the playlist has something like Cannibal Corpse or Carcass, then one of the recommended bands was Dying Fetus, which is how I got into the band, because Dying Fetus ended up in that mix, and I was like, oh, I like this music. Or it'll have bands like Nickelback, and then it'll recommend bands like Theory of a Dead Man and stuff like that, you know? So it'll recommend bands in similar vein to what you listen to and what's in the playlist that week. And I really love that. I mean, that's how I discovered Faith Hill. Like, the chill music mix had Tim McGraw, but then it recommended me like Faith Hill, who is the wife of Tim McGraw. So I think that its recommendations are really good. It also will make stations. Like, it has the For Me station. It's called Colton Nichols Station because that's the name of my account. And it's just like a combination of songs I've listened to and stuff I could get into, but it's much bigger than a playlist. It's like a station that's like endless and keeps going. And updates every time you refresh it. So I really like that. And it always has some familiar songs and some new songs in it, and I love that. Then Spotify, however, I don't think does it as justice. I mean, you do get 5 mixes, kind of like Apple Music. You get mixes. I mean, Apple Music only makes 3. The rock mix, the chill, and the... it's called Wake Up Mix, by the way. That's what the rock mix is called. I couldn't remember the name of it, which is why I was calling it a rock mix, but it's called Wake Up Mix, and it's basically just heavier songs to wake you up in the morning. But anyway, so Apple Music, I don't think does it as well. I mean, I feel like you get like mixes for each genre, sure, but I feel like it just doesn't recommend me artists that I'm into, and sometimes it'll even recommend me genres I'm not into, like rap and stuff, because I'm not that far into hip-hop. So I don't know why. I mean, I only really like Eminem, and that's about it. And I just don't recommend. I don't understand why it's recommending me things like Snoop Dogg and Kanye West ugh, I hate him. But it's just Spotify recommends me a bunch of stuff that I just would not listen to, and I don't understand that. People say Spotify's algorithm is the best, and I just don't see it. I really see Apple Music having a better algorithm. That's just me, though, and that's just the first thing about Apple Music I like. My first point has to be its algorithm, but I'm going to make a case. Now, in all fairness, Spotify, it seems to work for some people, so I guess it really goes off of how you listen to Spotify. I mean, I more use it for podcasts, but when I do listen to music on it, I just feel like it doesn't recommend me that good stuff, which is why I kind of stopped using Spotify and switched to Apple Music in the first place, was because I just felt like I wasn't getting that good of a listening experience, and it wasn't doing my music tastes justice, to be honest. And that's just how I feel, but let's move on to the next tab, comparison. Next on Apple Music is the Browse tab, which I think takes the recommendations and just takes them to a whole new level, and a fantastic level at that. So on this tab, we get things like browsing by genre. So instead of recommending me songs based off artists that I listen to, it bases it off genres I listen to. So I get like 80s rock essentials is one of the playlists. It's very playlist-based, but still really good, and I actually do discover artists this way. Like, we have, 80s hair metal essentials, 80s rock essentials. We got, rap essentials, hip-hop stuff, which, because I do listen to Eminem, I can understand why. I don't listen to it much, but I do sometimes hear a good rap song here and there that isn't Eminem, and I feel like it just recommends me rap music more towards my taste than Spotify does. But my favorite thing off this tab in particular has to be the daily Hot 100 playlists that it offers, where it actually shows me what's going on what songs are popular on the charts in not only US but different countries. I get to see Canada, England, Japan, countries like that. I get to see international Hot 100 charts. I'm from US, for anybody who's asking, but I think that it's really cool to see, what's popular in Canada and England, because I am very interested in international music. I love bands like Accept, a German metal band, Abath, a Norwegian black metal band, Mariana's Trench, a Canadian pop rock band. My favorite band, for crying out loud, is Canadian, Nickelback. Rip on Nickelback all you want, but I love them, and it's literally my favorite band, and they're from Canada. Avril Lavigne's from Canada. I love a lot of Canadian rock, but I love German metal and Norwegian metal. I love a lot of that stuff. I love the Dubliners, which is from Ireland, which is actually where my ancestors are from. So I really enjoy listening to international music. So I feel like this section of Apple Music in particular really helps me expand my knowledge of music and interest. And I think that's why I'm so knowledgeable on music, is because I have tools like this to keep me informed on artists in different countries. So I love this tab. Does Spotify have something like it? Honestly, I'd say not really. They don't really have a charts thing for you to view. I mean, they have the closest thing to it is sometimes some record labels have playlists on what's popular from what artists are trending from their record label, but it's just not the same. I mean, yeah, Loudwire's on Spotify, and I do get to see which rock bands or metal bands are trending right now, but sometimes I want to see what country or rap artists are trending at the moment, and I think Apple Music just does a better job on the trending music department. Okay, so while looking, I just noticed that it's not just countries, but they also have city charts. This section's even more advanced than I thought, because I can see songs that are trending in Los Angeles, Atlanta, Chicago, New York. This is a lot more advanced than I thought, and I actually can't wait to check this out personally, seeing what songs are trending in my home city of Chicago. So Apple Music gains a point just for that. I'm sorry, I might be a little biased, but that is just incredible. Next up, we have Browse by Category, which is where you can browse by genres, but also decade, which is what I use it for. So if I want to listen to music from just the 80s or 70s or 2000s, I can do that. And it'll be a blend of all genres. Like, I like to listen to 2000s a lot because that's my generation. So I'll hear songs from like Britney Spears, Taylor Swift, Linkin Park, Nickelback, Theory of a Dead Man, My Darkest Days, My Chemical Romance, All Time Low, Fall Out Boy, The All American Rejects, etc. Just a bunch of popular bands from that time and their best hits, you know. It's amazing to just go down memory lane and listen to all these amazing songs from all these different decades that blew up at the time. I love listening to that. I mean, you'll get something like Toxic by Britney Spears, and then something like I'm Not Okay, I Promise by My Chemical Romance, maybe followed up by Bleeding Love by Leona Lewis, and then like something like I Tried So Hard, I Got So Far, but in the end it doesn't even matter. You know, that Linkin Park song, I forget the name, so I just sang a part of it, but you get the idea of what that section's like, and I love it. Now, the radio tab, I don't use that much. It just kind of has stuff like live Apple Music stations that are ran by Apple Music themselves and custom shows like the Zane Lowe Show, and I'm just not really interested in that stuff. I understand it has an audience for it, and I understand what that audience is. You know, people that like to listen to live stuff, like live radio stations, but I didn't really subscribe to Apple Music to listen to live radio stations. I subscribe to listen to music that I want to listen to, you know, what song I want to listen to at that time, you know, and not have Apple Music, you know, play it, you know, in their way, you know, because like with the live stations, it means that they pick which songs are played, but the whole reason I subscribed was to have more control of my music and, you know, listen to what I want to listen to. You know, the reason I quit radio stations in the car was because I didn't like that they would play a lot of songs that I wasn't interested in. I subscribed to Apple Music so I could listen to whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, making the radio stations tab feel at least pointless to me. I get the audience for it, and I do like the artist interviews in this tab. I mean, you get stuff like the Zane Lowe Show where he interviews artists. But again, there's some artists on there that I'm just not interested in. I only listen to a few. Like I listened to the Metallica and the Ozzy Osbourne interview that came out not too long ago. But again, I only come back to this tab occasionally. Spotify doesn't really have anything like this. I mean, they have their podcasts and they have the Joe Rogan Experience, but aside from that, I don't really find their art. They don't really have much of an artist's interviews, and it's just not that interesting, you know. So far, Apple Music I think is more interesting, but I do say Spotify is just a little bland for me, and I think I'm making a pretty good case on why. But let's move on to the next tab. Next up, we have Library, which I think is pretty explanatory in my opinion. It's your library of music, you know, all the artists and albums and, you know, all the music you've saved from them all in one place. You know, if you go to artists, it shows you every artist you've saved music from in your library. Albums shows you all the albums you've saved. Playlists shows all the playlists you've either created or saved from Apple Music. You know, you might save a playlist that someone else has made, or you will create your own playlist and save it. So I think it's pretty explanatory. You can organize music in your library by genre, etc. I use this probably the most, you know. I go to like all my artists or all albums, and then I just hit shuffle and listen to like everything that's in my library. And I have a lot of stuff in my library. I mean, I'll never get to like listening to every song in my library, probably not. But I like shuffle because it shows me like quite an experience, you know. It gives me quite an experience. Like I could hit shuffle and be listening to something like Elton John, like some nice piano music. Next up, it's something by like Napalm Death. Like you can go from like piano rock to frickin' death metal. You know, I love that because I have all these different genres in my library, and hitting shuffle means I'm gonna get like a different song each time, and it's a surprise. It could go from a hard rock song to a country song to a pop song to a rap song to death metal. You know, I love that about it. And some people might say, I don't like it, that makes it feel too all over the place. But I'm a bit of a crazy guy. I like it all over the place, you know? I like a little bit of crazy in my life. And does Spotify do this? Yeah, and they do pretty well as well. Like, I will say, I don't find many flaws with Spotify's library, except for one thing, and this is what turned me off from using Spotify completely, and that's just its, like, play interface. I mean, when you go to an album, right, you hit shuffle, and, like, before you can even listen to it, it'll, like, you have to go to, like, the track list page, and then you have to figure out a way to play it, but first it's going to tell you can only play a preview of it, and then you have to go to this extra menu to actually play the song itself, and it just feels like a bunch of extra work, where on Apple Music, if you were to just click on an album, you can hit play and play all the songs from the album, in order. It'll play them for you, like one song will end, the next will play, or you can hit shuffle, and the songs will just play in a random order, or you can just go to a random song on the album and hit play, where with Spotify, you have to go to the album, then go to track list page, and then to make sure you don't want to play just a preview of the song, you have to select the song individually and tell Spotify that you want to play the song, not hear a preview from it. It's just a mess in library, or just to play a song on Spotify in general is a fucking mess, and I'm just not down for that, which is why I just use it for podcasts. For some reason, playing podcasts on Spotify is easy as hell. Like, all I have to do is go to a podcast profile on Spotify, click an episode, hit play. It's not that complicated compared to playing music, which they just overcomplicate things. If someone from Spotify is listening to this, make it less complicated. Make it easy like it was. It used to be that you would click on an album, select a song, like you would just tap on the song and it starts playing. It didn't have these extra steps that you had to take. It's stupid. I want my music easily accessible. I don't want to go to these extra steps. That's why I like Apple Music. Everything's easy to play. If I want extra steps, I'll buy CDs, which I already do, by the way. If I want to play something with extra steps, then I will take a CD out of the case, put it in my stereo system, and hit play. That is a little bit of an extra step because I have to actually look for the CD, then pull it out, And I don't mind doing that because I like the quality of CDs. But with Spotify, I want an easily accessible platform, not extra work. Amazon Music's kind of like that too. But we're not talking about Amazon Music. But Apple Music so far, I would say, is the easier and more accessible platform. And last up is just the search tab, which it does exactly what you said, exactly what it sounds like. It's exactly how it sounds. You just search up an artist, album, or song, and you can go to that artist profile with one click. You can play the song with one tap, pretty easy. And most of the time, you'll find what you're looking for. I rarely look something up on Apple Music and don't find it. That's probably only happened to me once or twice where I couldn't find it. And I usually even find it anyway, and the only time I usually don't find something is because I realize that I spelled it wrong. If I try again, I usually find it the second time. So, Apple Music, I think it actually has said Apple Music has, I think it was 60 million songs, and Spotify 50 million. I forget what the exact number was, but Apple Music actually does have more songs than Spotify if you actually look it up. That's another reason I went with Apple Music. I felt like there were higher chances of finding what you're looking for considering the bigger library. So, that's why I chose it. And that is why I find Apple Music to be better than Spotify. Take with this information what you will. Does Spotify have some cool features? Yes. They have the yearly roundup thing where you get to see a compilation of everything you listened to that year. But that's really it. I'm not going to choose Spotify because of one good quality. I'm not going to choose Spotify just because it has one cool feature compared to Apple Music, which has several good features that will serve me well in the long term. Where Spotify, that one feature will only serve me well at the end of the year, right? So, that's my reason. Thank you so much for listening, and rest in peace, Queen Elizabeth.